Thank you so much for giving us your time and for being here today. Welcome to this informational webinar for the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas Funding Opportunity Announcement. I'm Courtney Haynes and I'm the engagement lead, and I'll be your opener and your closer for today's webinar. First, a few housekeeping items that we wanted to go over. This Teams webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the U.S. Department of Energy's OCED's website. All participants are in listen-only mode, and for your awareness, all attendee names are visible to other attendees, but the names will not be available in the recording itself. To turn on live captions, click on those three dots up there in the corner that say More in the top banner and select Turn on Live Captions. We are not taking any questions and feedback today. However, we suggest that you submit any questions you have to the ERA Funding Opportunity Announcement email, which is erafoa1@hq.doe.gov. Finally, a copy of today's presentation will be posted on the OCED webpage soon, and a link to it will be posted on OCED Exchange under this specific FOA's post. The recording of today's session will also be available on this webinar's webpage in about 2 weeks. Next slide, please. The purpose of this webinar is to provide broad feedback and address certain themes that emerged during the review of questions submitted about the Energy Improvements in Rural and Remote Areas Funding Opportunity Announcement in the FOA email. Only publicly available information provided on OCED's Energy Improvements in Rural and Remote Areas Funding Opportunity Announcement is going to be discussed in today's webinar. Attending the webinar and watching the recording is completely voluntary and will not impact an applicant's selections. There are no particular advantages or disadvantages to the application evaluation process with respect to participating on today's webinar. This webinar is not a rule or regulation, and the recommendations it contains may not apply to a particular situation based upon the individual facts and circumstances. If there are any inconsistencies between a specific funding opportunity announcement and any statement on this webinar, the funding opportunity announcement document is the controlling document. An applicant should rely on that language. Next slide, please. For today's webinar, we will first hear from our program manager for this program, Regina Gaylor, in addition to some program staff, Michael Kuka and Juan Villegas. We'll also hear from Jill Capitoso, and they will share questions and answers we've received from selections of the funding opportunity announcement that we are covering today. Before I hand it to the program team, I did want to provide a very brief overview of the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. OCED's mission is to deliver clean energy technology demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector to accelerate deployment, market adoption, and the equitable transition to a decarbonized energy system. Our mandate is number one, that we are a center of excellence. We serve as the primary Department of Energy office to deliver full-scale clean energy demonstration projects and project management oversight and excellence. Second, clean energy and equitable. We're going to help enable 100% clean electricity by 2035 and net zero emissions by 2050 through an equitable energy transition. 3 in our mandate is follow-on investment. We want to unlock and scale trillion-dollar clean energy follow-on investment from the private sector and other sources of capital. We want to 4, de-risk technology, maintain risk-based balance and defensible portfolio of investments. And last, engagement and outreach. We want to leverage private sector and broader energy ecosystems to inform OCED and Department of Energy technology commercialization efforts. Next slide, please. You can see here there are several scopes currently under the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations: Regional Clean Hydrogen Hub, Advanced Reactor Demonstrations, Carbon Management, Industrial Demonstrations, clean energy demonstrations on mineland, long duration energy storage, demonstrations, and other demonstration projects. And today we are going to get into the weeds of the Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas program, and specifically the funding opportunity announcement that went out recently. So, with that, I do want to ask Regina Gaylor to come on video, and she's going to walk us through with the program team more specifics. So, Regina, it's your show.
Thank you very much, Courtney. And thank you everyone for being here. We are excited to be here with you. And I can say it's an awesome experience to be here with this DOE team. I'm the program manager for the Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas program that Courtney has described. And I'm going to go ahead and ask to advance to the next slide. So, a little more about us. The bilateral infrastructure law authorizes Department of Energy to invest $1 billion in this Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas program, what we call ERA. DOE's ERA program will provide financial investment, technical assistance, and other resources to advance clean energy demonstrations and energy solutions that are replicable and scalable. ERA, our program, aims to fund clean energy projects with three specific goals. We aim to deliver measurable benefits to energy customers in rural or remote areas by funding replicable energy projects, as I've said, that lower energy costs, improve energy access and resilience, and reduce environmental harm. Two, we aim to demonstrate new rural or remote energy system models using climate resilient technologies, business structures that promote economic resilience, new financing mechanisms, and or new community engagement best practices. And three, we want to build clean energy knowledge, capacity, and self-reliance in rural America. Going to section 2 of our FOA, projects must benefit from a rural or remote area in at least one of the following ways, and you'll see them listed here on slide 8. A, overall cost effectiveness of energy generation, transmission or distribution systems. B, siting or upgrading transmission and distribution lines. C, reducing greenhouse gas emissions from energy generation in rural or remote areas. D, providing or modernizing electric generation facilities. E, developing microgrids. Or F, increasing energy efficiency. These A through F, as we often refer to them above, are in the Bilateral Infrastructure Law, Section 40103C, the provisions and objectives. Let's advance to the next slide. The Bilateral Infrastructure Law's ERA, or our program section, defines rural or remote area, importantly, as a city, town, or unincorporated area that has a population of not more than 10,000 inhabitants. For a rural or remote area that isn't a city or town, the rural or remote area must be a census designated place or similarly discrete and identifiable community with a population of 10,000 or less. DOE will not make eligibility determinations for potential applicants prior to the FOA application's deadline, and the decision whether to apply in response to this FOA lies solely with the applicant. Next slide, please. On metrics. Each project will develop the necessary goals and metrics to report and assess the benefit to rural or remote communities. Quantitative goals that may be used to assess the benefit, which may include, but are not limited to, improved grid performance, improved resilience, reduced energy burden and poverty, increased economic resilience, improved environmental performance from energy generation to support public health, reduce greenhouse gas impact of the energy system, or improve energy access. Next slide, please. On regions of interest, the Energy Improvements in Rural Remote Areas program encourages applicants to propose technologies that improve one or more rural remote communities' resilience to climate impacts. And that requires applicants of this FOA to identify a region of interest. The regions of interest should be the location of the rural remote areas that will benefit from the proposed project. The table pictured here is not an all inclusive list, but meant to provide example technologies by region. You go on to the next slide. Thank you. So, furthermore, in our FOA sections 2 and 3, we outline, in addition to regions of interest, topic areas. The FOA, you will see, has two topic areas. One is community scale demonstrations. This topic area, community scale demonstrations, has no further areas of interest within it. The second topic area is called large scale demonstrations. The large scale demonstrations topic area does have two areas of interest within it. The first area of interest is called aggregation, and the second area of interest is about single site projects. Both topic areas 1 and 2 are technology neutral. Applications must choose one topic area per proposal. For topic area 2, applicants must choose one of the two areas of interest. Let me go into a little more detail. In topic area 1, the community scale demonstrations, we're looking for proposals to implement clean energy projects using one or more clean energy technologies that advance resilience and provide other benefits. Going back to and looking at that bilateral infrastructure law ERA section objectives that we talked about earlier to one or more rural remote communities. Some example projects include microgrid designs and service models that enable cost competitive deployment to a broad set of rural remote communities. The next one, potentially small hydropower systems providing community benefits. Another is hybrid configurations of distributed energy resources that are operable during extreme weather events. And lastly, an example is demonstrating operation of existing technologies to new climates. Projects must only use commercially available technologies. Proposals must demonstrate the technology is commercially available and identify a plan to procure the proposed technology. Proposals must demonstrate at least one project installation that benefits at least one rural or remote area. And the applicant must clearly articulate the benefits of the project to the rural or remote areas and the metrics for assessing these benefits. Moving on to topic area 2, some more detail. Large scale demonstrations should benefit multiple communities, either through a single installation that benefits multiple rural or remote communities, or through a series of installations with similar or complementary characteristics across the multiple communities. For multiple site proposals, the applicant must explain metrics to assess direct benefit to multiple communities. There are two areas of interest for this topic area, as I noted before. Proposals may address only one of the two areas of interest, but not both in the same proposal. For area of interest 1, called aggregation, this refers to conducting similar projects at multiple locations in a manner that leads to a demonstrable benefit relative to conducting that project at only one location. Example proposals under this area of interest include an aggregation of solar and or wind projects with or without energy storage in multiple locations that share a common administrative and support staff, or grid hardening and resilience efforts to transmission and distribution infrastructure, or to multiple substations. In these scenarios, the applicant must demonstrate benefits to all indicated communities from energy generation and related economic activity. So that was area one. For area of interest two, single site projects, these proposals should include projects that involve a single installation site that can enable replication of a solution and or benefit multiple rural or remote communities. Replication can be achieved in many ways. For example, projects may propose investments that can unlock a previously unavailable capability for multiple rural or remote areas that spur follow on investment in those areas. Replicability also could be demonstrated by proposing demonstration ready technologies that are not widely commercially available but do leverage unique regional resources. In this latter case, the proposed project might include technology with competitive advantage when deployed in the region, or leverage existing energy assets that have ceased operation or may soon cease operation due to the renewable energy transition. Examples of projects proposed under this topic area 2, a utility scale solar, wind farm and or hydrogen or battery storage facility, a bioreactor that uses locally available biomass to replace fossil fuel generation, a renewables project that delivers significant additional benefits to a local community, a transmission investment that reduces reliance on fossil fuels, or a clean energy generation in an area having had trouble attracting investment due to geographic isolation. Overall, for this funding opportunity announcement, the award amount is $300 million. So we will be awarding up to $300 million for successful proposals. Thank you for listening and sorry about the sirens in the background. Right now, I'm going to hand it over to Mike and Juan and ask to move to the next slide. Thank you.
Hello, good day, everybody, and I'll just second Regina's comments. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking the time to listen to the information on our FOA today. We're happy to have you here. The first thing that we'd like to highlight here, and Courtney already said at the beginning, but for those of you that have joined a little bit later in the conversation, we are referring to the FOA that's on OSED Exchange. If you're not familiar with that website, it's osed-exchange.energy.gov, but a quick browser search for OSED Exchange will get you there. And what we have the opportunity to share with you in between the sections of the FOA review is opportunities to talk about questions and answers questions that we've been receiving from you, the applicants, and answers. And you may reference that on the OSED Exchange. We have the entire set of Q&A there. But also, at any time, you may offer questions through our email. And that email is on the bottom of this slide, on the bottom left, erafoa1@hq.doe.gov. And a lot of people are asking how to develop their project, about eligibility, about tax credits, and we won't have the opportunity to get to everyone today, but we do encourage you to go on Exchange and find those questions and answers. With that, we're gonna, in between sections, we're gonna hit a couple of questions and answers that we've been seeing come in pretty repetitively, and I'll pass the first one off to Juan. Juan?
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start with the first one. What technical assistance is available? Experts from DOE's national labs are available to meet with applicants in an office-hour format, as well as individual sessions. Currently, technical assistance only available for the concept paper. Technical assistance is at no cost to applicants, and information about it, including who is eligible for it and how to apply, is available on the web page shown on the screen. I'll pass it back to Mike for the next question.
Thanks, Juan. That's a great point. And we'll cover dates later in the slideshow, but just for awareness, the concept papers are due on April 14th. And to Juan's points there on the slide, that if you want to apply for technical assistance, you'll need to apply for that by March 7th, which is a week after this Friday. So still a good bit of days to work on that. Another question that we've been getting a lot of is about the regions of interest. And it says, will the number of awards be divided up evenly between regions? And the answer is no, not directly. Our leadership team is very interested in hearing from you, the rural communities, on how to address specific climate challenges that you're finding in each of your regions. And that was the intent of that. So as an applicant, you'll be filling out that region that you have impact in and maybe some resilience mechanisms based on your project. But by and large, we're going to select projects considering both the technical merit and the regional impact. We'll pursue geographic diversity, but we are not directly guaranteeing any awards being divided among regions. And again, just a quick note there that on the bottom of the page, if you'd like to submit questions on the FOA, we welcome them. And that's ERA401@hq.doe.gov. And if you ever have any trouble with Exchange, then you have an Exchange help email as well. And with that, I will pass it back to Regina, and we'll go into FOA Section 4 for eligibility. Regina?
Thank you very much, Mike and Juan. So going into FOA Section 4 on eligibility, Section 40103C of the Bilateral Infrastructure Law that I've referenced before, and that is the section of that law that underscores our Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas Program, or ERA. That section defines rural or remote areas as a city, town, or unincorporated area that has a population of not more than 10,000 inhabitants. Applications must identify at least one area in the United States, including U.S. territories, with a population of not more than 10,000, using the 2020 Census Bureau figures that will benefit from the proposal. The identified area must be either A, a city, town, or other unincorporated municipality, or B, a census designated place, or similarly discrete and identifiable community that is not located within an incorporated municipality. Applications that do not satisfy this requirement will be considered ineligible, and they'll be removed from further evaluation. See the guidance document that we've produced for this FOA. It's available on OCID Exchange under the FOA's posting for more information on how to use the U.S. Census Bureau data to determine a community's population. Still speaking to FOA Section 4, the proposed applicant and any subrecipients must be domestic entities. To qualify as a domestic entity, the entity must be organized, chartered, or incorporated, or otherwise formed under the laws of a particular state or territory of the United States, have majority domestic ownership and control, and have a physical place of business in the United States. A minimum of 50% non-federal cost share is required for projects under this FOA, unless the entity applying is eligible for our special cost share described below. This 50% cost share, the original and requirement, is based on total allowable costs, i.e. the sum of the government share and the recipient share of allowable costs equals the total allowable cost of the entire project, and must come from non-federal sources unless otherwise allowed by law. So that's the non-federal cost share must come from non-federal sources unless otherwise allowed by law. Special cost share for domestic institutions of higher education, domestic nonprofit entities, and U.S. state, local, or tribal government entities. The recipient cost share requirement for the non-federal cost share of projects for these groups is reduced from 50% to 20%. This is the special cost share, 20%, where the prime recipient is a domestic institution of higher education, again, domestic nonprofit entity, or U.S. state, local, or tribal government entity And that last category is including Alaska Native corporations and Alaska Native Village corporations. Applicants who believe their project qualifies for the reduced recipient cost share must be able to provide verification that the above requirements, the requirements that I've spelled out, are satisfied. The following types of applications will be deemed non-responsive and will not be reviewed or considered. Here's a list. Applications that fall outside the technical parameters specified in sections 2.1 and 2.2 of the FOA. Next, applications that do not benefit at least one rural or remote area as described throughout section 2.2.1.1 of the FOA. Next, applications for proposed technologies that are not based on sound scientific principles, e.g., a project that violates the laws of thermodynamics. And lastly, applications including research, development, and pilot scale activities. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass it back to Juan and Mike. Thanks.
Thank you, Regina. We had to cover in the previous slide the cost waiver, and we have one inclusive of zero for it. We have it here again. It's been a popular question it's been asked. So like it's on the screen on FOA section 4.2, it states that non-federal cost share is reduced to 20% when the prime recipient is a domestic institution of higher education, domestic nonprofit entity, U.S. state, local, or tribal government, including Alaska Native corporations and Alaska Native Village. Cost share would not be reduced from 20% under this FOA. Once again, like for according to the previous slide, entities can apply for it. They're based on this requirement, they are eligible for it. And with that, I'll pass it on to Mike for the next question.
Thanks, Juan. So another question that we're getting a lot of is this right here, what's in bold. Examples that you provide in the FOA are different than my project proposal. Can I still apply? And the answer is yes, quite succinctly, that the project proposals, they're not limited to the potential examples that we provide in the FOA. Specifically, we provide examples in 2.2.3 and a couple other places in our literature. And the idea is to share with you concepts and for examples when we talk about projects, but there is no specificity that it has to be a project that we have in our text. So we welcome your ideas, we welcome your solutions based on your regional challenges, and we're excited to hear about concepts that you have to provide to us. And then we have one more question, Juan, on that one.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'll cover the last question on this slide. Can a single entity make one application on behalf of multiple municipalities for several projects? As shown on FOA section 2.2.2, a single entity, including aggregators, may conduct projects at multiple locations under a single project. And with that, I'll pass it on to the next slide. I'll pass it back to you, Regina.
Thank you very much, Juan and Mike. So I'm going to speak now to FOA section 5. This is on application submission information. All submissions to this FOA must conform to the form and content requirements described in the FOA, including maximum page lengths. Submissions must follow the following requirements: be submitted in Adobe PDF format, unless stated otherwise, written in English, formatted on 8.5 by 11 paper, 8.5 by 11 inches, margins not less than 1 inch, Calibri typeface, black font, and font size 12 point or larger. A control number will be issued when an applicant begins the OSIT exchange application process online. The control number must be included with all application documents. Specifically, the control number must be prominently displayed on the upper right corner of the header of every page and included in the file name. For example, the file name would be control number underscore applicant name underscore application. Page numbers must be included in the footer of every page, and each submission must not exceed, importantly, the specified maximum page limit. The maximum file size that can be uploaded to OSIT Exchange is 50 megabytes, and files in excess of that 50 megabytes cannot be uploaded, hence cannot be submitted for review. DOE will not accept late submissions that resulted from technical difficulties due to uploading files that exceed that 50 megabytes. Next slide, please. There are several one-time actions required before submitting your application in response to this FOA, and it is vital that applicants address these items as soon as possible. Some may take several weeks, and failure to complete them could interfere with your ability to apply to this FOA or to meet the negotiation deadlines and receive an award if the application is accepted. These requirements are as follows. Register with OSIT Exchange, this website. Register with System for Award Management, or SAM, and provide a valid unique entity identifier, or UEI, number in its application. Register in FedConnect and register in grants.gov. Next slide, please. So the application process itself under this FOA has two parts. The first part is a concept paper, and the second part is the actual application. On the concept paper, your paper must address the requirements described in FOA section 5.6.1. Department of Energy will only review the authorized number of pages. And please note that all statements of expertise provided will need to be substantiated in the application submission somewhere. See section 5.6.2. DOE makes an independent assessment of each concept paper based on the criterion in section 6.1.1. DOE will encourage a subset of applicants to submit applications, and other applicants will be discouraged from submitting an application. See more information about that in section 7.1.1. On the application, only applicants who have submitted an eligible concept paper. I'll move on, excuse me. Applicants have approximately 60 days from DOE's posting of concept paper encourage discourage notification on the OSIT Exchange website to prepare and submit an application. Regardless of the date the applicant receives the encourage discourage notification, the submission deadline for the application remains the date and time stated on the FOA cover page. Each application must be limited to a single proposal. Applications must conform to the content and form requirements listed below and must not exceed stated page limits. Applicants must provide sufficient citations and references to justify your claims and approaches that you're making in this proposal to Department of Energy. However, Department of Energy and our reviewers are under no obligation to review the cited sources. I'm going to advance to the next slide and pass it back to Mike and Juan. Thanks.
Thanks, Regina. So Mike and I will cover a couple more questions related to the section we just covered about concept paper application. First one is, can I submit more than one concept paper for application? Yes. Per FOA section 4.4, an applicant may submit more than one concept paper or application as long as each concept paper and subsequent application describes a unique, distinct concept, and provided that a concept paper was submitted for each application submitted. I'll pass it on to Mike for the next question.
Thanks, Juan. Also, a question that we get frequently is, at the time of the concept paper, does the applicant need to have all the projects identified? And the answer is yes. And more specifically, if you check the FOA section 5.6.1, we tried to give a real succinct table to tell you exactly what you should include in the concept paper. It should describe the project that's being proposed. It should include the technology and or systems to be developed. It should highlight the construction activities and the infrastructure development to the greatest extent known at the time of submission. And that's all on the concept paper, but again, 5.6.1, if you want to get some more information directly from the FOA. And we have one more question, Juan.
Thanks, Mike. This one is a popular one. Applicants have asked how developed their application or their proposal or the project needs to be. So the requirements for the application and the submission information are outlined in FOA in section 5, and the required content for both the concept paper and the application are provided in FOA section 5.6. FOA section 2.3 outlines the 4-phase program management structure, and applicants can also see the OSED era program management structure in section 5 in the guidance document available on OSED Exchange. The graphic in section 5 provides an overview of when engineering, site control, and permitting must be achieved. However, exact requirements for each project phase will be tailored during the award and phase negotiations to the size and complexity of the proposed project. And with this, I'll pass it on to Jill for the next section.
I'll talk a little bit about the community benefits plan. So all bill-funded projects are expected to support meaningful community and labor engagement, to invest in the American workforce, advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and contribute to the President's goal that 40% of the overall benefits of certain federal investments, including those in clean energy and climate change, flow to disadvantaged communities. And this is covered under the Justice 40 initiative. So all applications must include a community benefits plan or CBP, describing how the project will incorporate these 4 objectives. CBP milestones and work plan descriptions should be incorporated into the project schedule, the work plan, budget, and all other key documents. For projects impacting multiple communities, CBP should address all 4 objectives across all communities. CBPs must address the technical review criterion titled Community Benefits Plan, Job Quality, and Equity in section 6.1.2 of the FOA. Applicants are encouraged to provide community and labor partnership documentation, which will be submitted under the Community Partnership Documentation section 5.6.2.4 in the FOA. And that would come from organizations reflecting engagement and feedback on the applicant's CBP. In support of community benefits plans, applicants may submit letters, memoranda of understanding, or other similar agreements from partnering tribes, labor unions, or community entities, specifically describing the nature of existing or planned partnerships. If the applicant intends to enter into a workforce and community agreement, they should include letters from those proposed partners. Go to the next slide. A question we've gotten a couple times on related to the Justice 40 initiative is whether a project needs to be located in a disadvantaged community. And projects are not required to be located in disadvantaged communities. The program and all OSED programs are covered under the Justice 40 initiative, which, as I mentioned on the previous slide, directs 40% of the overall benefits of certain types of federal investments to flow to disadvantaged communities. The distribution of benefits is measured across all OSED projects, meaning that individual projects are not required to direct 40% of benefits to disadvantaged communities. But in line with the intent and goals of the Justice 40 initiative, all projects are asked to maximize benefits and mitigate harms to any potentially impacted community, and to track and report these impacts to DOE. You can learn more about the Justice 40 initiative and see DOE's definition of disadvantaged communities if you look at the Justice 40 initiative site through the Department of Energy. I'll hand it back to Regina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Thank you for hanging in there with us, audience. We're going to go slide 22. I'm going to discuss the FOA Section 6 and how concept papers and applications will be reviewed. So for concept papers, to be deemed eligible, the applicant must demonstrate clearly defined activities that will improve energy in rural or remote areas of the US. The applicant must generally identify the types of activities and clearly define the rural or remote area that will benefit from the activities using US Census Bureau data or other legal boundary, as we've stated before. Section 4.0 of the FOA has provided more detail on these definitions and is definitely worthwhile reviewing. That was concept papers. On the applications themselves, they will be reviewed based on the 5 criteria shown in the slide here. These include technical merit, innovation and impact, financial and market viability, a work plan, management and team project partners, and community benefits plan, as Jill has just spoken to. Let's go to the next slide. Program policy factors. In addition to the criteria I've just outlined, the selection official ultimately may consider the following program policy factors in determining which applications to select for award negotiations. The selection official may consider technical merit, the Federal Consensus Board's recommendations, program policy factors, and the amount of funds available in arriving at selections under this FOA. The Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations anticipates notifying applicants who are selected for negotiation of award and then negotiating awards by the dates that are provided on the cover page of this FOA. Department of Energy will notify applicants of its determination to either encourage or discourage the submission of an application based on that concept paper. Department of Energy will post these notifications to the OSED Exchange, the website. Applicants may submit an application even if they receive a notification discouraging them from doing so. By discouraging the submission of an application, DOE intends to convey its lack of programmatic interest in the proposed project. Such assessments do not necessarily reflect judgments on the merits of the proposed project. The purpose of the concept paper phase is to save applicants the considerable time and expense of preparing the actual application that is unlikely to be selected for award negotiations. Department of Energy will notify applicants of its determination via a notification letter by email to the technical and administrative points of contact that the applicant designates within OSED Exchange on the website. The notification letter will inform the applicant whether or not its application was selected for award negotiations. Receipt of a notification letter selecting an application for award negotiations does not authorize the applicant to commence performance of the project. If an application is selected for award negotiations, it is not a commitment by a Department of Energy to issue the award. Applicants do not receive an award until award negotiations are complete and the Grants and Agreements Officer executes the funding agreement, accessible by the prime recipient in FedConnect. The award negotiation process would take approximately 60 days, an emphasis on the word approximately. Applicants must designate a primary and a backup point of contact in OSED Exchange with whom Department of Energy will communicate to conduct award negotiations. Thank you again for your attention. We're going to advance to the next slide, and I'm going to hand off to Courtney.
Thank you so much, Regina. The Department of Energy personnel, we are prohibited from communicating in writing or otherwise with applicants regarding the FOA, except through an established question and answer process, as described below. Specifically, questions regarding this FOA must be submitted to ERAFOA1@hq.doe.gov. Questions must be submitted no later than 3 business days prior to the application due date and time. Please note feedback on individual concept will not be provided through Q&A. All questions and answers related to this FOA will be posted on OSED Exchange at https://OSED-exchange.energy.gov. You must first select the specific FOA number to view the questions and answers specific to this FOA. OSED will attempt to respond to a question within 3 business days unless a similar question and answer has already been posted on the website. Questions related to the registration process and use of OSED Exchange website should be submitted to OSED-exchange support@hq.doe.gov. Include the FOA name and number in the subject line. Please refer to the guidance document for this FOA available on OSED Exchange under this FOA's posting for the definition of use terms and additional information related to the requirements in this appendix and additional post-application submission information. We encourage you to reach out through our Q&A and ask your questions. Again, want to iterate that, and we will respond when we can. Thank you so much for being here today to learn more about OSED, to learn more about the energy improvements in rural and remote program area funded under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. On behalf of all of us here today, we thank you for your time and for your interest. And as a reminder, the FOA remains the controlling document. If information was presented differently in the webinar from the FOA is the guiding document, and applicants should refer there. Again, thank you so much. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Enjoy the rest of your day.